This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. So we're already in Chodesh Teves. We've completed the Yom Tov of Chanukah. So we're on to the next chapter in the calendar, and that is Asara B'Teves, Mirz Hashem Friday, Haba Aleinu L'Tova is Asara B'Teves. And what exactly happened on Asara B'Teves? So the Rambam tells us in Hilchos Tainis, Parakeh Halacha Hey, V'asiri B'Teves, on the 10th day of Teves, Shevay Samach Melech Bavel, Nebuchadnezzar Harasha al Yushalayim. Nebuchadnezzar Harasha set siege to Yerushalayim. Very interesting expression, Samach, as if he leaned on Yerushalayim. Vehevia, and he brought it, B'matzar, Uvematzaik, in distress and in oppression. Very interesting. So on Asara B'Teves, that's the day that Nebuchadnezzar Harasha surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim. So we know that on Asara B'Teves, Nebuchadnezzar surrounded Yerushalayim. On Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, he broke through the walls. On Tisha B'Av, he burnt it down. And on Tzom Gedalia, that was the last ray of hope that was extinguished. I was bothered by the following question for many years. Yeah. I was bothered by the following question. This question really bothered me, really troubled me. And I asked many people this question. Remember, I sent a letter to Reb Chaim Knievsky even. Listen to the following question. This is the Shulchan Aruch and Ar Chaim, Siman Tav Kuf Mem Tes Sif Beis. What happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz? Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is the day they broke through the walls of Yerushalayim. In other words, they set siege on Asara B'Teves. They finally broke through the walls on when? The 17th day of Tammuz. Now, what month is Teves? Teves is 10th month, right? Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Tzom HaAsiri. What is Tzom HaRavi? What is the fast of the 4th month? That's the fast of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. So the Shulchan Aruch is bothered by the following question. The question is, you got the wrong date. Why? Because Nebuchadnezzar did not break through the walls of Yerushalayim on the 17th of Tammuz. He broke through the walls on the 9th of Tammuz. Right? It's a pasuk in the Navi. The Navi Yirmiyah says, take a look at number 2. Af agav dechsiv v'kra b'chodesh haravi b'tishul hachodesh. Even though it's written in the pasuk, in the 4th month, on the 9th of the month, huvka ha'ir, the walls of the city were breached. So the Shulchan Aruch was bothered by Akasha. The walls were not breached on the 17th of Tammuz. The walls were breached on the 9th of Tammuz. So why do we fast on the 17th? We should fast on the 9th. Ein misanin b'tesbai. We don't fast on the 9th. Ela b'yud zayin, only on the 17th. Why? Mivnei. Sha'af al pisha b'rishayna hufka b'tesbai. Even though in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, in fact, the walls were breached on the 9th, Kivan shebeshniya hufka b'yedzayin vay. Since in the second Beis Hamikdash the walls were breached on the 17th, tiknu lehesanois b'yedzayin vay. They enacted to fast on the 17th. Mishum dechurban bayis sheni chamorlan, because the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash was more stringent. Here, listen to what the Shulchan Aruch is saying. Why do we fast on the 17th of Tammuz? We should fast on the 9th of Tammuz. After all, that's what the Navi says. The Navi says the walls were breached on the 9th. Answers the Shulchan Aruch, yes, the walls were breached on the 9th in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash. But in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, the walls were breached on the 17th. So now you have a question. Should you fast the 9th or should you fast the 17th? Which Churban is more destructive? Which Churban do we feel the effects of more? Second Beis HaMikdash. Because we're suffering from Churban Bayis Sheni today. Right? So therefore, if it's a choice between the breaching of the walls by the first or the breaching of the walls of the second, we choose the second because we feel what happened by Bayis Sheni more than we feel what happened by Bayis Rishon. By the way, Tosfos says the same thing. Tosfos in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, take a look at number 3. He says that the Gemara says that the walls were breached on the 9th. Says Tosfos, that's during the times of Bayis Rishon. But during Bayis Sheni, they were breached on the 17th. And that is why we today fast on the 17th.
What's the question?
One second, I'm not up to the question. I just want to point out, Tosfos says that that's what the Bavli holds. The Yushalmi disagrees. The Yerushalmi says that even during Bayis Rishon, the walls were breached on the 17th. The Navi says it happened on the 9th. The Navi was wrong.
What?
Asked Tosfos, how could the Navi be wrong? Listen to what Tosfos says.
Let's read it
Says Tosfos. We can't say such a thing, but that's what Tosfos says. Says Tosfos. They were so confused. They were so troubled. They had so much tsaras in the times of Bayis Rishon. They'd lost track of the date. People didn't know whether they were coming or going. People didn't know if it was Shabbos, Sunday, Monday, if it was Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. They wrote the 9th, but really it was the 17th. So the question is, but the Navi knew it was the 17th. So why would the Navi write the wrong date? The Navi wanted to preserve the confusion of the times. The Navi wanted us to get a feel for how terrible things were. So even though the Navi knew it happened on the 17th, the Navi purposely preserved the wrong date so we realize how terrible things were at the time. That's what Tosfos says.
Wow.
Okay? But the Bavli disagrees with the Yerushalmi. The Bavli says in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, the walls were broken through on the 9th. So why do we fast on the 17th? The second Beis HaMikdash is more chamor to us than the first. Based on this, I've always been bothered by the following question.
I can hear you.
Okay, based on this, I've been bothered by the following question. And that is, so what are we doing on Asara B'Teves? Well, why do we fast Asara B'Teves? Asara B'Teves is a date that Nebuchadnezzar surrounded the walls in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash. But why would we fast the day that Nebuchadnezzar surrounded the walls in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash? We should instead fast when the Romans surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash.
When was it?
After all, I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. But after all, when it comes to breaking through the walls, we don't fast the day they broke through by Bayis Rishon. We fast the day they broke through by Sheni, because Bayis Sheni is more chamor. So why, when it comes to surrounding the walls, do we choose the day they surrounded by Bayis Rishon? We should fast the day they surrounded by Bayis Sheni. I mean, look, just think about it. Right? There are two stages. There's surrounding, there's breaking. By breaking, we don't fast when they broke Bayis Rishon, we fast when they broke Bayis Sheni. So why, when it comes to surrounding, do we fast the day they surrounded by Bayis Rishon? We should fast the day they surrounded by Bayis Sheni.
Do you want the answer?
Do I want the answer?
Do you want an answer? What?
If you know an answer.
Rabbi Olbaum gave one answer.
Rabbi Olbaum discussed that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What did he say?
What did he say? Go ahead.
On
No, I
Shabbos?
wasn't there, but I heard it many years ago.
Yeah?
Because he said, why only Asara B'Tevet is not Nidche? It's the same idea. Because it was the last chance of Am Yisrael to turn the tide.
Okay.
And that's why we fast Asara B'Tevet for the first Bet HaMikdash, because that was the beginning of the entire idea of the Churban. That's why it never changed. It's B'zeh Hayom. Anything else, anything happened later on, it's consequence. It's not the beginning.
That was the beginning of
So why don't we fast the day they broke through the walls by the first? That was also the beginning. That was the beginning of when they broke through.
No.
He said the surrounding.
The surrounding was their last chance of doing a real tshuva and change the entire course of history.
You first surround, then you break.
That's why.
So then we should fast when they're surrounded by Bayis Sheni. After all.
No, but
Why?
he's telling you the first time in his story.
brought down that Shiva Shabbat in this case doesn't count.
What?
Asara B'Teves is more powerful than even Tisha B'Av because he says on Asara B'Teves, based in Shalamala.
Okay, so you're telling me.
About the Churban.
Okay, you're telling me supernatural answers here. I want to know halachically. I want to know. What? We have that on the sheet also, Baruch Hashem. But I want to know simple shipshat, halachic answer. If halachically the Shulchan Aruch paskins that we fast when they broke through the walls by Bayis Sheni, because Bayis Sheni is more chamer than Bayis Rishon, so why by surrounding do we fast Bayis Rishon? We should fast by Bayis Sheni. That's my question. And Baruch Hashem, I found the Shabbos Teshuvos Tashbeitz Chelek Beis Siman Reish Ayin Aleph. He asks sort of two questions, but I view it as a Miman of Shach question. Ha'echad. Lama ein anu mesanim b'tisha b'Tammuz. Why don't we fast on the 9th of Tammuz? Mimnei shabai hufka ha'ir barishayna. That's the day they broke through the city during the times of the first Beis Hamikdash. K'moi sha'anu mesanin ba'asara b'tevis al smichas melech Babel. The same way we fast when they surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim during the times of the first Beis Hamikdash. In other words, the question is, if we are fasting on Asara b'tevis, which is the day they surrounded the walls by Bayis Rishon, why don't we fast on the 9th of Tammuz, which is when they broke through the walls by Bayis Rishon? I mean, we see from Asar b'Teves, we're interested in Bayis Rishon. So if we're interested in Bayis Rishon, fast on the 9th of Tammuz, which is when they broke through the walls by Bayis Rishon. Elamai asked the Tashbetz, V'oid, Lama anu mesayim b'Shavas b'Tammuz. Why do we fast on the 17th of Tammuz? Mimnei shabai hufkoyer b'shniya. Because that's the day they broke through the walls in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash. Ve'ein anu mesanin. Why don't we fast? Al smichas romiyim b'Yushalayim b'shniya. If you're going to fast by the 17th of Tammuz, which is when they surrounded it, when they broke through the walls of the city by Bayesheni, we should fast on the day that the Romans surrounded Yerushalayim in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash. What happened to that day in the calendar? We commemorate every single day, right? We Jews, we don't forget about anything in history. Every day of the calendar, today is this happened, today that happened. You could look in the Yated, they'll tell you everything that happened in history on this day, on that day, right? We don't lose an opportunity. People will bring in herring, people bring in schnapps, for anything that happened, right? What happened today? His great-grandmother looked out the window, and so, right, they don't want to say tach. So the day the Romans surrounded Yerushalayim in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, what happened to that date?
Maybe they never surrounded.
They never surrounded. Look in the Gemara in Gittin. The Gemara in Gittin says that in times of Bayesheni, the Romans surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim. It talks about they had enough food to last for this and this. So we know they definitely did set siege. Okay. Maybe. So you want to, was it? Is that the answer? If that's true, why would the Rambam say, and why does the Gemara say, that what happened on Asar b'Teves? One tragedy. They surrounded the walls by Bayis Rishon. By Tisha B'Av it says both Batei Mikdashim were destroyed. But by Asar b'Teves we don't say that by both periods in history. So apparently, right, it must have been a different day. So it's a different day, then we should commemorate that day. Okay. We come to an amazing halacha of the Avudraham, which was alluded to before. The Avudraham, Rab David Avudraham. I remember I was once giving a shiur. We had in Reish Dalet Aleph. Reish Dalet Aleph. What's Reish Dalet Aleph? I didn't know Reish Dalet. We had an old man. We had Rab David Tusk. He was sitting in our shir in the Young Israel, and he said, Rab David Avudraham. How do you know? He's already on his third cycle of learning the Torah, and the Torah writes out Rab David Avudraham. Okay, so Rab David Avudraham says like this: Sha'arbas hatzoymois heim nidchin lefamim. The 4 Tanesim, Shavas b'Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, Asar b'Teves, Sam Gedalia, they are pushed off sometimes. When? Kishachalu b'Shabbos. When they fall out on Shabbos, everybody knows that if Shavas b'Tammuz, if Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you push it off to Sunday. Chutz me Asar b'Teves, except for Asar b'Teves. She'eino chal la'olam b'Shabbos. Asar b'Teves never comes out on Shabbos. Aval hu chal lefamim b'yom shishi. Sometimes it comes out on Friday, like this year. Umisanin boy b'yom, and we fast on Friday. Now other Tanisim don't come out on Friday. Asar b'Teves could come out on Friday.
Tanit Esther.
But we don't fast on it. We fast. Right. Fa'afilu hayachal. You ready for this? Fa'afilu hayachal b'Shabbos. Even if Asar b'Teves would come out on Shabbos, Loi hayu yechaylim l'chaysay liyayim acher. We could not push it off. Says the Avudraham, even if Asar b'Teves would come out on Shabbos, we could not push it off. Mipnei shenem arboy, because it says by Asar b'Teves, be'etzem hayayim hazeh, on that very day, k'moy b'yayim ha'kippurim. The same language the Torah uses by Yom Kippur. Right? V'chol ha'nefesh asher lo se'uneh be'etzem hayayim hazeh. What happens if Yom Kippur comes out on Shabbos? Do we push off Yom Kippur? No, this year we fasted on Shabbos. The same way if Yom Kippur were to come out on Shabbos, we fast on Shabbos. Says Rab David Avudraham, if, theoretically, Lu Yitzuyer, Asara b'Teves would come out on Shabbos, we would fast on Shabbos. Does everybody agree with the Avudraham? Oh no. You know who disagrees with Avudraham? Almost all the Rishonim. Rashi in Masechta Megillah Daf Hey. Rashi says, Imchal liyos b'Shabbos, ma'achrin liyom machar. If a fast day comes out on Shabbos, we push it off. V'chein Tisha B'Av shechal liyos b'Shabbos. If Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we push it off. V'hu adin liyudzayin b'Tammuz, u'la'asar b'Teves. Says Rashi, don't make the mistake and think if Asar b'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos. Chas v'sholem. You don't fast on Shabbos for anything but Yom Kippur.
No, also Tanit Chalom.
Tanis Chalom.
A bad dream.
Yeah.
I'm too tired to have any dreams. I don't have dreams. If you have a dream, you're right. I'm so tired, I don't have dreams. Anyway, the Rambam says in Hilchos Tainis, the Rambam says in Parakeh Halach, no, I'm not joking. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tainis, Parakeh Halacha Hey, Aval Echad Me'arba Yemei Hatzaymos Shechal Liyos B'Shabbos. If one of the 4 Tanesim come out on Shabbos, Doichin Oisai Li'achar Shabbos. You push it off. So Rab David Avudraham is alone in his opinion that if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos. As Maran Bet Yosef on the Avudraham, take a look at number 8. Beis Yosef in Archaim Siman Taf Kuf Nun Sif Kat and Gimel. He quotes Rab David Avudraham that Asar B'Teves is different from other Tanesim because if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos like Yom Kippur. Says the Beis Yosef 5 words. V'lo yadati minayin lo yizeh. I don't know where the man got this from. Where did he get this from? Where did Rab David Avudraham? Where did he cholam? Yeah. Where did he come up? Good audience. Where did Rab David Avudraham get this from? That if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos. Where does this come from? I would add, but Rab David Avudraham is a great man. He was a Rishon, yeah? He's not a Tana. So it says V'etzem Hayom Hazeh in the Navi by Yechezkel. It says V'etzem Hayom Hazeh in the Chumash. So first of all, we don't make a Gzeir Shava from the Navi to the Chumash. V'etzem Hayom Hazeh. What's Avudraham talking about? It says here V'etzem Hayom Hazeh. It says V'yom Kippur V'etzem Hayom Hazeh. You don't make a Gzeir Shava.
All the Gzerot Shavot?
Yeah, they're all Misinai.
So how we say this?
And even if it were both psukim in the Chumash, you can't. If you're a Rishon doesn't darshan Gzeir Shavos, you have to be a Tana to darshan Gzeir Shavos. What's Rab David Avudraham talking about? That if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos because it says V'etzem Hayom Hazeh, wonderful. But you can't darshan that. That's not up to a Rishon to expound on the pasuk that you would fast on Shabbos because it says V'etzem Hayom Hazeh. That is question number 2. Again, question number 1, we wanted to know why don't we fast on the day the Romans surrounded Yerushalayim by Bayesheni? Number 2, we have the question of the Beis Yosef, where did the Avudraham get this from? That if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you would fast even on Shabbos because it says V'etzem Hayom Hazeh. Number 3, the Kasha, the Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Shin Aleph Oy Zayin. Frek the Minchas Chinuch, I'll tell you the Kasha outside. Do you have to eat on Shabbos?
Yes.
Yeah?
Ayom.
You have to eat on Shabbos, unless you have a bad dream.
At least 2 Sudot.
Right? Hayom.
No, 2 Sudot.
Is Hayom D'Oraisa or just Asmachta Ba'alma? It's only Asmachta. Who says you have to eat on Shabbos? The Navi. Which Navi? The Navi Yeshaya V'Karahu LaShabbos Oineg. Who says you have to fast on the 4 Tanesim?
Cheskel. Oh no.
Cheskel, Asar B'Teves. The Navi Zechariah says Tzom HaRavi, Tzom HaChamishi, Tzom HaShvi, Tzom HaSir. So what do you do if Asar B'Teves, or if any of the fasts come out on Shabbos? Let's say Shavasar B'Tammuz comes out on Shabbos. Zechariah says you got to fast. It's a fast day. Yeshaya says you got to eat. V'karasa Shabbos Oineg. What do you do if Zechariah tells you one thing and Yeshaya tells you something else? What do you do if you have a clash between 2 Divrei Nevi'im? Right? Zechariah says today's a fast day. Yeshaya says today's Shabbos. What do? Ask the Minchas Chinuch. You do what you do in every situation when you don't know what to do. Shev v'al tasa. Since you don't know what to do, you're passive. You don't do anything. So if Zechariah says today's a fast, don't eat. And Yeshaya says today's Shabbos, eat. What are you going to do?
Don't do anything.
You sit there, you don't put any food in your mouth, you don't eat.
So you're fasting.
So ask the Minchas Chinuch, why is the halacha that when a fast day falls out on Shabbos, you push off the fast day? You shouldn't push off the fast day. You should fast on Shabbos. What do you mean? How could you fast on Shabbos? Yeshaya says to eat. Yeah, but Zechariah says to fast. So whenever you have a clash between two Divrei Nevi'im, Sheva al Tasa Adif, don't do anything, which would mean fast. So why is the halacha you push off fast days? You should never push off a fast day. You should always fast on Shabbos. What do you mean Yeshaya says to eat? Zechariah said not to eat. Sheva al Tasa. Frek the Minchas Chinuch, look at number 9. V'oid, kivan shumi divrei Kabbalah. If fasting on the Dalat Hanesim is midivrei Nevi'im, divrei Kabbalah, divrei Nevi'im, shu, that's the original, kidivrei Torah, and we know that divrei Nevi'im is like, they're like words of Torah. Eini yodea, I don't know, says Minchas Chinuch, lama lo yidcha hatayna Shabbos v'Yom Tov. Why a tainus would not push off Shabbos and Yom Tov? Ayin b'Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef brings down that the Avud Raham would say Asara b'Teves does push off Shabbos. But what I want to know, ask the Minchas Chinuch, is every tainus should push off Shabbos. Why? Kivan dahat tainus midivrei Kabbalah. Since fasting is midivrei Kabbalah, v'gam oineg Shabbos midivrei Kabbalah, and enjoying Shabbos is also midivrei Kabbalah, like the Rambam says. So this is a very important question of the Minchas Chinuch. Rabbi say the whole shiur depends on this question. You get the question?
Yeah.
We know if a fast day comes out on Shabbos, you push off the fast because you can't fast on Shabbos. Ask the Minchas Chinuch, why can't you fast on Shabbos? One Navi, the Navi Zechariah says fast. The Navi Yeshaya says eat. So you don't know what to do. Shav al Tasa Adif. So you fast.
So why you don't bring another there and then you machriya b'neim?
We don't have another day. Yecheskel also says to fast, but there's no 2 against 1 and by Nevi'im. It's not a bezdin.
What is the difference between Divrei Kabbalah and Divrei Sofrim?
Divrei Sofrim is midrabanan, and Divrei Kabbalah is midivrei Nevi'im, which has the strength of Torah also.
What's greater, Shlomi or Scholim?
I don't know. I certainly cannot decide on that one. Right? We don't find one Navi is greater than the other.
Who was first?
Yeshaya.
So once you follow the latter one,
No,
he was.
there's not a halachic. By halacha, you follow the Basra. Here it's Divrei Nevi'im. Okay, another question, Rabbi Sai. That's question number 3. Why wouldn't we fast when every tainus falls out on Shabbos? Question number 4. Why don't we fast on the 9th day of Tammuz? That's when the walls were breached in the first Beis Mikdash. The answer is, the Shulchan Aruch told us, based on Tosfos, that we fast on the 17th because Churban Bayesheni Chamer Lan. The second Beis Mikdash is more Chamer. So I have a simple question. Why don't you fast both?
Too much.
It's too hard. So ask the Minchas Chinuch the following question. Who determined that you have to fast let me ask you a question. Before the second Beis HaMikdash, in the 70 years between Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni, what day do you think they fasted? The 9th.
The 9th.
Fasting on the 9th, who told them to fast on the 9th? Zechariah. Saim Harvi. So, later on, what happened? The second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and the Chachamim got up and they said, you know what? Let's fast on the 17th. Fast on the 17th? The Navi Zechariah said you have to fast on the 9th. Chachamim can't argue on the Navi. How could the Chacham argue on the Navi? Once they were already fasting on the 9th, who are these Chachamim that have the right to argue on the Navi? They're not Nevi'im anymore. The Chachamim in the times of Bayis Sheni, Rabbi Akiva, you have the Tanoim, however great they were not Nevi'im. So once already fasting on the 9th of Tammuz is Midivrei Kabbalah, who changed it? What, the Shulchan Aruch changed it? Maram Bet Yosef got up and said, you know, the Nevi'im said this, but I feel you should do the 17th. Who changed it? Tosfos. Midivrei Nevi'im, they already legislated the 9th.
When the second bias was around.
Yeah.
Fast on the 9th.
No,
There you go. So there was no fast.
No, you know what they did on the 9th? They had a Yom Tif on the 9th. But now,
When?
what kind of Yom Tif? Herring. It was a Yom Tif. The Gemara says Sasin v'Simcha. They made a Yom Tif. It was a Yom Tif. It was a Yom Tif.
For what?
Because it was a day that was Nepach l'Simcha. It was a day that was transformed. So the question is, once the 9th was legislated by the Navi, who had the chutzpah to change it? Who had the koyach to change it? And
He built a second bias of Mikdash.
Ezra didn't change it. Ezra just made it, and now that the 9th, now that the 9th is not a day of tragedy, now it's a day of simcha. But when the Bayis Sheni was destroyed, then it reverts back into being the way the Nevi'im made it.
Why does it revert back?
Because that's the halacha. The halacha was, these days are tragic unless you have what to rejoice over. Once you don't have what to rejoice over, so then they go back to being tragic. The Navi Zechariah didn't say it's only a fast day until the second Beis Hamikdash is built. Take a look in the Minchas Chinuch, number 9. Number 10. Utmir Gedola. I have a great tema. How do we have the ability to uproot words of the Nevi'im? Shuhu Ketara, Havalu Likbaya Gam Yud Zayin Bay. We should establish the 17th also. V'im Mishum the Kasha Ala Tzibor. And if you're going to say, well, it's too hard to fast 2 days in 1 month, how could the Chachamim proactively uproot the 9th of Tammuz, Lecha v'lishtos, to eat and drink, Ushar and Yanim, and other things, Shumi Divrei Kabbalah, B'shas Hashmad? We know that in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it was what we call Shas Hashmad. Now this is also an important idea to know. Fasting today, is it Midivrei Nevi'im or is it Midrabanan? It's not Midivrei Nevi'im anymore. It's only Midrabanan. Because the Gemara says like this: if the Goyim are actively persecuting us, that they don't let us keep Torah mitzvahs, then the 4 Tanesim are Midivrei Kabbalah, they're Midivrei Nevi'im. But if you have Shalom, if you have relative peace, then it's not, you want to fast, you could fast. You don't want to fast, you don't have to. We accepted it upon ourselves. But it's no longer Midivrei Kabbalah. So, ask the Minchas Chinuch in any event, who exactly uprooted the 9th of Tammuz and made it the 17th?
What did you say by Tzom Gedalah and Yom Kippur that you can't stand? Why did it make that into a fast? Same month.
No, because there, it's fasting for 2 different things.
What difference is that? You fasting, you fast?
No, Yom Kippur has been at Torah, and the Chachamim added a fast, Tzom Gedalah, for a completely different reason, for a Churban Beis Hamikdash.
But you're still fasting.
But here, you're fasting twice, to fast twice, for one tragedy. For the breaking of the walls, Chachamim told you can't fast twice in 1 month for the breaking of the walls. That much they didn't want to do. Okay. Rabbi said, here's the big whopper. You ready for this? There was a man by the name of Rabbi Yochanan. And Rabbi Yochanan said like this. Look at number 11, the Gemara in Tainis, Chavtes Amud Aleph. Look at number 11. V'hainu damar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Ilmale hayisi b'oisei hadar. If I was alive in the times that they instituted Tisha B'Av, lo kavativ ela ba'asiri, I would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th of the month. Mimnei sheruba shel heichal boi nisraf, because the majority of the Beis Hamikdash burnt down on the 10th. Right? We know that historically, on the night of Tisha B'Av, what happened to the Beis Hamikdash? Nothing. Tisha B'Av night, we get down on the floor. What happened that night? Nothing. Tisha B'Av morning, what happened Tisha B'Av morning? Nothing. Tisha B'Av afternoon, when we get up, so the Goyim took the fire. They set fire to the Beis Hamikdash. When we're getting up already, that's when the main tragedy happened. And it burnt. They set fire toward the end of the day on the 9th. And it burned the whole day on the 10th. So the question is, if the majority of the Beis Hamikdash burnt down on the 10th, why do we fast Tisha B'Av? Says Rabbi Yochanan, that's why if I was around, I would have said, don't fast Tisha B'Av. Fast on the 10th. Rabbi Yochanan says, had I been in that generation, I would not have established Tisha B'Av on the 9th, but rather on the 10th. And what do the Chachamim hold? Why do the Chachamim establish Tisha B'Av on the 9th? Says the Gemara, V'Rabbanan aschalta de paranusa adifa. It's better to fast when the beginning of the tragedy. The beginning of the tragedy was the 9th. The Chachamim say it's better to fast at the beginning of the tragedy. asked the Minchas Chinuch one of the strongest questions. You hear what Rabbi Yochanan is saying? If he was around in that generation, he would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th. Rabbi Yochanan have one simple question. If you were alive in that generation, who asked you? Nobody would have asked your opinion.
The Nevi'im was there.
If the Navi said to fast on Tisha B'Av, I don't care who's there. Rabbi Yochanan could be there. He could be there with all the Gedolei Hadar. He could be there with the Gaon, Rashi, the Rif, the Rambam. We wouldn't have asked any of them. You know why? Because the Navi said to fast on the 9th. Which means Hashem is saying fast on the 9th. So what's Rabbi Yochanan saying? If I was there, we wouldn't have asked you, Rabbi Yochanan. What do you mean if you were there? We wouldn't have asked your opinion if you were there. Your opinion would not have mattered. Because this is not the Chachamim conveniently deciding to fast on Tisha B'Av. This is Midivrei Navi. The Navi said to fast on Tisha B'Av. So if the Navi said to fast on Tisha B'Av, what's Rabbi Yochanan talking about? If he was there, he would have made it on the 10th.
So that's what the Rabbanan should have said.
Oh yeah, what we're asking, what's Rabbi Yochanan talking about? It's like, it's like the Reform Convention. If they were around, they would have made Shabbos on the Monday. Shkoyach. It's not up to Hashem told us Shabbos. So we have to understand, what's Rabbi Yochanan saying? Rabbi Yochanan saying, if he was around, he would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th. Shkoyach. Sorry, Rabbi Yochanan, that's not in your jurisdiction to change the calendar date.
Is that why? Because Rabbi Yochanan, we wait until noon the next day?
Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan said, good question, Rabbi Yochanan. It burnt down the next day, but it doesn't matter when it burnt down, because Hashem told us when to fast through the Navi. So that's question number 5. Question number 6. The Gemara Masechta Rosh Hashanah tells us that we know we have Tzom HaRavi, which is Shivasa B'Tammuz. We have Tzom HaChamishi, which is Tisha B'Av. Tzom HaShvi, which is Tzom Gedalia. And Tzom HaAsiri, the fast of the 10th month. What's the fast of the 10th month? Rabbi Akiva says Asara B'Teves. What happened on Asara B'Teves? On Asara B'Teves, Nebuchadnezzar surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim. Says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, sorry Rabbi Akiva, that's not what happened during Teves. You know what happened on Teves? We don't fast Asara B'Teves, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We fast on the 5th day of Teves. What happened on the 5th day of Teves? On the 5th day of Teves, many months earlier, 142 days earlier, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. But it took 142 days for the Golos to find out about the report. On the 5th day of Teves, news reached New York City. It reached all over the world that unfortunately the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Says the Gemara on that day, says Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, take a look in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah Yeches Beis. Take a look. 4 lines from the end. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai says, Va'ani eini omer kein. Says Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, I don't hold this way. Elosoim ha'asiri, the fast of the 10th, Zeh chamishi b'teves. That's the 5th day of Teves. What happened on the 5th day of Teves? Shebai bas shmua l'goyla. The report reached the Galus, shehuksa ha'ir, that the city had been destroyed. Shenemar, ba'yihi b'shtei esrei shana, it happened in the 12th year, ba'asiri in the 10th month, b'chamisha l'chodesh on the 5th day of the month, ba'ilai ha'polit mishalayim, the refugee came from Yerushalayim, lemar, huksa ha'ir. And we fast on the day we heard about it, like on the day that Yerushalayim was burnt down. Va'asa yom shmua ki yom sreifa. So listen to what's happening. We have a machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. What is the fast of the 10th month? Rabbi Akiva says Asar b'Teves. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai says the 5th day of Teves. Ask the Minchas Chinuch a very simple question. When did Rabbi Akiva live?
This is bite. I'll never bite back.
First Beis HaMikdash.
After first, so Rabbi Akiva wasn't there.
What?
So how come?
But I want to know.
Say that they came there.
No, the question is, what was the kviyas? What was the establishment? Right?
I don't understand. If it's bite Rishon,
yeah,
it wasn't around, both of them.
But they're arguing what happened. Why was the fast of Teves enacted? What was it enacted for? Was it enacted for the surrounding of Nebuchadnezzar, or was it enacted for the report that reached the Galus on the 5th day of Teves, like the Navi reports? So the Minchas Chinuch asked a very simple question. Rabbi Akiva and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai lived during the Churban. So what are they arguing about? What day to fast? Why don't they just look on the calendar? They got in the mail the Ezra's Torah calendar. Look on the Ezra's Torah calendar and see what day on the calendar does it say to fast. It's not, I could understand if Tanoim are arguing what happened hundreds of years earlier. They're living in the times of the Churban. What kind of machlokes is this? Just go out and see, when are people fasting? Are they fasting on the 5th or are they fasting on the 10th? What kind of machlokes is there? Rabbi Akiva saw the Churban. He lived before, he lived after. So let Rabbi Akiva take a poll, let him stand at the door, and as people are leaving the shul, Rabbi Akiva should ask, no, when do you fast? The 5th or the 10th? What kind of machlokes is this? What kind of machlokes is this? So Rabbi Isai, so we have 6 questions over here. You got them?
I don't understand this.
Number 1, why do we fast on the day they surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim during Bayis Rishon? We should fast when they surrounded the wall by Bayis Sheni. Number 2, what's Rav David Avudraham saying? That if Asara B'Tevis would fall out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos. Fast on Shabbos? Where did he get this from? Number 3, why do we push off a fast that falls out on Shabbos? No. We have a stira between 2 divrei neviim. Sheva al tasadif. What should we do?
Fast.
We should fast. Question number 4. Who changed Shiva Asar B'Tammuz from the 9th? The Navi said the 9th. Who moved it to the 17th? Question number 5. What's Rabbi Yochanan saying? That if he was around in the times of the Churban, he would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th. We wouldn't have asked you, Rabbi Yochanan. Nobody would have asked Rabbi Yochanan. And question number 6, what's this machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai as to what happened during Teves? Just see what people are doing. Comes the Minchas Chinuch, and Minchas Chinuch teaches us a klal gadol, a tremendous yesod. Tremendous yesod. You ready for this? Says the Minchas Chinuch, take a look at the pasuk in Zechariah. Look at number 15. Kayamar Hashem Tzavakos. Soim Harvi, the fast of the 4th. B'tzaim HaChamishi, the fast of the 5th. B'tzaim HaShvi, the fast of the 7th. B'tzaim HaAsiri. Yiyah, L'beis Yehuda, L'sasen L'simcha, L'mayadim Taivim will be transformed for Klal Yisrael, for happiness, for joy, for Yom Tif. V'ha'emes ha'shalom ehavu, truth and peace will embrace. Says the Minchas Chinuch, an amazing thing. You look at the pasuk in the Navi. Does the pasuk in the Navi say what day to fast?
No.
The pasuk in the Navi doesn't say a word about what day to fast. All it says is the month Tammuz of Tishrei Teves. All the Navi legislates is the month of the year. The Navi doesn't say a word about the day. So who decided on the day? Says Minchas Chinuch, the day was not determined by the Navi. All the Navi said was, make sure you fast in Tammuz. Make sure you fast in Av. Make sure you fast in Tishrei. Make sure you fast in Teves. The Chachamim of the later generations then formulated that you can't just Yankel will fast on that day, and Beryl will fast on that day, and everyone will pick a day that's convenient for them. Anyway, Yankel had a bad dream that day, so Asal killed 2 birds with 1 stone. No, everyone has to fast on the same day. So the Chachamim of later generations said, which day of Tammuz? The 9th. Which day of Av? The 9th. Which day of Tishrei? The 3rd. Which day of Teves? The 10th. So says the Minchas Chinuch, when later generations came along and said, yes, Nebuchadnezzar broke through the walls on the 9th in Bayis Rishon, but the Romans broke through on the 17th. We're allowed to change it from the 9th to the 17th. You know why? Because we're not arguing on the Navi. The Navi never said the 9th. The Navi only said the month of Tammuz. Yeah, they fasted on the 9th during the Bayis Rishon because at that time, that was the most appropriate day to fast. But now that we're suffering from Bayis Sheni, and we feel the tragedy of the 17th of Tammuz, we are authorized to switch because we're not arguing on the Navi. The Navi never said the 9th, the Navi just said the month. But once, for us, the 17th is more appropriate than the 9th, by us moving it from the 9th to the 17th, we're still fulfilling the words of the Navi of fasting in this month. How could you switch? We're just disagreeing with Chachamim. We're not disagreeing with Nevi'im. Chachamim, one Chacham could argue on other Chachamim, if they have a legitimate reason. The question was, the Chachamim can't argue on the Navi. We thought the 9th of Tammuz was legislated by the Navi. The 9th of Tammuz was not legislated by the Navi. The Navi just said Tammuz. The 9th was picked temporarily. But now that the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, we're authorized to move it. Okay? That's how we answer question number 4. Question number 4, right? Question number 4 was, how could you move it from the 9th of Tammuz to the 17th? After all, the Navi said the 9th of Tammuz. No, the Navi said Tammuz. The Chachamim said the 9th of Tammuz. Chachamim said the 9th of Tammuz. Chachamim could switch it to the 17th. Says the Minchas Chinuch. Now we understand, let's talk about question number 2. We had a kasha. The Navi Zechariah says today's a fast day. The Navi Yeshaya says today's Shabbos, you have to eat. So the Minchas Chinuch asked, every tinus that falls out on Shabbos, you should fast. Because Sheva al Tasa. Says the Minchas Chinuch, no Navi is telling you to fast today on Shabbos. What do you mean? Today's Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. Today's Asara B'Teves. Today's Tisha B'Av. No. The Navi didn't say to fast today. The Navi said to fast this month. The Chachamim said to fast today. Yeah, but the Navi said you have to eat on Shabbos. So you have the Navi Yeshaya saying to eat today. And you have the Chachamim saying to fast today. So what do you do when Yeshaya tells you to eat? And the Chachamim tell you to fast. So then you got to eat. No. So then you got to push off the tinus. You have to push off. Our question was, we thought, says the Minchas Chinuch, that the Navi's telling you the day. No, the Navi's not telling you the day. The Navi's telling you the month. So when it says, so now we understand. When a fast day comes out on Shabbos, so Yeshaya is telling you to eat, but no Navi's telling you to fast. The Navi's telling you to fast this month. The Navi's not telling you to fast today.
So what if we get the idea that the Navi told us which day? Why worry that it would be happening?
Because we thought that. Who else established the day? We don't know of any specific... We don't know who established it. So presumably if it comes from the Navi also established the day. By the way, some Rishonim disagree with the Minchas Chinuch. The Ritva has a position that the Navi established the day also. The Ritva in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis. But the Ritva, in another answer, says exactly like the Minchas Chinuch, you have it on your sheet number 17, that no, in fact, the Navi only selected the month, but not the date. Right. We asked, Zechariah says to fast today. And Yeshaya says to eat. The answer is Zechariah never told you to fast today. Zechariah only said to fast in this month. It's the Chachamim who selected the day. The Chachamim cannot uproot or even challenge the words of Yeshaya who said you have to eat today. Okay?
Avudraham is left hanging.
Oh no, we're going to get him. We're going to explain him. He's going to be good. Rav David Avudraham is going to be good. Okay, let's deal with another question. Rabbi Yochanan said, if I were around, I would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th. So we asked, Rabbi Yochanan, who would have asked you? The Navi said to fast on Tisha B'Av. No. The Navi never said to fast on Tisha B'Av. The Navi said Tzom HaChamishi, the fast of the month of Av, the 5th month. The Chachamim determined Tisha B'Av is the most appropriate day to fast. Rabbi Yochanan said, if I were around, I would have told those Chachamim they got the wrong day. I would have, if I was there in the presidings of what day to select, I would have selected the 10th of the month and not the 9th of the month. Okay? That's how you answer that question. Now with the Minchas Chinuch asked, what's Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai arguing on? They were around at the times of the Churban. Why wouldn't they just see when people are fasting? The answer is it's irrelevant when people are fasting. Because whatever day they fast, they're fulfilling the words of the Navi of fasting during Teves. The question is, what date should the Chachamim formulate and formalize and legislate that everyone's required to fast? So Rabbi Akiva says, I hold the 10th. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, I hold the 5th. So taking a poll is not going to help. Because any day that people were fasting was fulfilling the words of the Navi of fasting that month. The question is, what date is most appropriate? So Rabbi Isai, we answered the questions of the Minchas Chinuch. We answered why we push off Tanesim when they come out on Shabbos, because no date is given. The Navi's not saying specifically fast on Shabbos. We explained how you're allowed to move Shivasa B'Tammuz from the 9th of Tammuz to the 17th. We explained what Rabbi Yochanan means. He would have made Tisha B'Av on the 10th. We explained how Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai could argue, is it the 5th of Teves or the 10th of Teves? You ready for this, Rabbi Isai?
What about Be'etzem Hayom? This is said Be'etzem Hayom.
We're going to come back to the Avudraham. We're going
to come back
to the Avudraham in a minute. Very good. What about, we asked, thank you. We asked the question, why do we fast on the day of the month? Why do we fast on the day? Then Nebuchadnezzar surrounded Yerushalayim during Bayis Rishon. We should fast when the Romans surrounded by Bayis Sheni. So I found two answers to this question. And I'm going to suggest my own answer, so we're going to have three answers to this question. Number one, you could give the following answer. You know why we don't fast on the day the Romans surrounded by Bayis Sheni? Because if you look in Masechta Gittin on Daf Nun Vav, what does the Gemara say there? When the Romans surrounded Yerushalayim, they had so many supplies, they could have existed for 20 years, 22 years. But what happened? The Bar Yonim got very upset, they got very antsy, they burnt down the storehouses, and they had no choice but to allow the enemy in. So let's just think about it. That means when the Romans surrounded Yerushalayim by Bayis Sheni, was that a tragedy? That wasn't a tragedy. You think the Romans are going to camp outside of Yerushalayim for 22 years? They have nothing better to do for 22 years? Eventually they would go back home. After all, the Olympics come every 4 years, right? So eventually they would have to come. So how long could they last over there? 4 years maybe, until they're going to want to win the gold medal. So anyway, so the Gemara says that they could have lasted for 22 years with all the supplies. So it could be in the times of Bayis Sheni, the act of surrounding Yerushalayim itself was not a tragedy. That's my own suggestion. Suggestion number two, and this is not a suggestion, this is what the Shas Teshuvas Binyan Shlomo says. You know why we don't fast on the day they surrounded the walls by Bayis Sheni? Shas Teshuvas Binyan Shlomo HaKohen Mivilna. He says, we don't know what day that was. We just don't know what day it is. It was such a tragedy, it was such a tragic period of time. There was so much confusion, so many tzaras. It is a day that is not recorded in Jewish history. We have no idea what day it is. It's the one day that we just don't know when it happened. Look at number 18. V'chein Asara b'teves, the Samach Melech Bavel, hayagam b'Bayis Sheni. The same type of date happened during Bayis Sheni. The Titus gam kein Sara al Yerushalayim. Titus also set siege to Yerushalayim kama shanim for many years. Kamavur b'Yosifon. V'yav shelo yadu eze yom shesamach Yerushalayim. Even though we don't know what date they surrounded Yerushalayim. Dimachmas hatzaros neshtakach hadavar. Wow! When I saw this, I had to do a jump, do a little dance. For years, I didn't understand. Why don't we fast the day they surrounded Yerushalayim by Sheni? So you have over here a treasure. Shas Teshuvas Binyan Shloimei. Now listen to this. In the Tikunim B'Haisafai, Siman Lamed Daled, all the way in the back of the Sefer, he just mentions as a side point that it was such a tragic period, we really don't know what day that happened. Okay?
And now they remember on the first bite.
The Navi recorded it. That's it. The Navi recorded it. So Rabbi Sai, that's answer number two. A third answer to this question is from the Tashbates. Shas Teshuvas Tashbates, Chelek Beis. This is also Siman Reish Ayin Aleph. Based on this principle that we've been learning, that the Navi did not establish the day, the Navi only established the month, the Tashbates says we could answer that question. We asked the same way they moved. The 9th of Tammuz to the 17th of Tammuz. Why? Because the second Beis HaMikdash is more chamor. So why don't we move Asara b'Teves to whatever day they surround Yerushalayim by Bayis Sheni? You know what the answer is? Because it happened in a different month. So from the 9th of Tammuz to the 17th, you could transfer because it's the same month. You're not going against the words of the Navi. But to move from Asara b'Teves to a different month, that's going against the words of the Navi. You can't go against the words of the Navi. So that's an amazing answer. Based on this principle, that the Navi legislates the month but not the date, so from the 9th of Tammuz to the 17th, we're authorized to move, because we're still fulfilling the words of the Navi. But to move Asara b'Teves to the date, now we don't know what date that is, but he's assuming it happened during another month, so that you're not allowed to do. Take a look at number 19. Ve'eno maspik. It's not sufficient. Elam noisif v'nemar, unless we say the following: Shahanavim shetiknu tzom haravi, the Nevi'im who made the fast of Tammuz, They didn't make a specific date. They left this matter to Bezdin to move from one day to another, like the principle of the Minchas Chinuch. Take a look 2 lines down. V'nira vadai. If the walls of Yerushalayim would have been broken through in a different month, the second time other than Tammuz, hayinu misana b'tes baravi, we would have kept the 9th of Tammuz. Imagine if, during the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, they didn't break the walls on the 17th of Tammuz. Imagine if they broke through the walls on the 10th of Adar. Could we have moved it to the 10th of Adar? We couldn't have moved it, because you have to preserve the month. Now look, here's the key. Similarly, the fast of surrounding Yerushalayim, that we fast on the first Beis Hamikdash and not the second. That was the enactment of the prophets. That the fast should be in these months. They were not makbid on what day. So in other words, what's he saying? He's saying that why do we preserve the fast of Asara B'Teves? Why don't we move it to when they surrounded the walls during Bayis? Shani, you know what the answer is? Because you can't change the month. The month has to remain the same. You could change the date, you could change the 9th of Tammuz to the 17th of Tammuz, but you cannot change what? You cannot change Asara B'Teves to a different month. Coming back to our original question, Rabbi Isai, you ready for this? Goinus. We asked, what's David Avudraham talking about? That if Asara B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos. What do you mean? How could you fast on Shabbos? What? Rabbi David Avudraham became a Tana. Be'etzem hayom hazeh, be'etzem hayom hazeh. The Minchas Chinuch told us a great principle. This is the Chiddush of Rabbi Shlomo Warman, Zechron Levracha, number 20, in the Sefer Oiros HaShabbos. The Minchas Chinuch told us a great principle. What's the principle? The Navi legislates the month, the Navi doesn't legislate the date. That's good for Shavasa B'Tammuz. That's good for Tisha B'Av. That's good for Tzom Gedalia. Where all the Navi says is Tzom Haravi, Tzom HaChamishi, Tzom HaShvi. But there's one fast day where aside from Zechariah legislating the month, you have another Navi who legislated the date. Yechezkel HaNavi came along and he said about Asara B'Teves that aside from the fact that it's in the 10th month of the year, it's B'yetzem Hayom Hazeh. It's on that day, not just that month, that day. So the Navi for Asara B'Teves is not just legislating the month, the Navi is legislating the day. The Navi is legislating the day. So then when it comes to Asara B'Teves, the Minchas Chinuch's question comes back in full force. The Navi Yeshaya says you have to eat on Shabbos. The Navi Yechezkel says fast, not just in this month, today. So what do you do if one Navi tells you to eat and one Navi tells you to fast? Sheval Tase Adif. You don't eat. So we asked, where did the Avudraham get it from that if Asara B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you fast? What, he's a Tana? He's darshaning Gzeira Shava. Be'etzem hayom hazeh here, be'etzem hayom hazeh over there. I'll make a my own Gzeira Shava. It says Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar by Mitzayra, and it says Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe by Sukkah. So you should schlep all the Mitzayram into the Sukkah. No, of course you can't do that. You have to be a Tana to make a Gzeira Shava. So what's Rabbi David Avudraham is not making a Gzeira Shava. He's just pointing out that the Navi is legislating the date of Asara B'Teves. Once the Navi legislates the date, so what do? One Navi says eat, one Navi says fast. Says Rabbi Warman over here, the Minchas Chinuch's question comes back, B'chol Taikfa, in full force. You would fast on Asara B'Teves that comes out on Shabbos. Why? Why? Because the Navi is legislating the date. Okay. That's an amazing explanation. So we've answered all the questions. This is a very important yesod. The principle is that the Navi is only legislating the month, not the date, with the exception of Asara B'Teves. So Rabbi Isai, I got to give you 6 more minutes, otherwise, I can't cheat the boss over here, right? We started at 10:45. So I want to share with you, that's the halachic reason of why Asar B'Teves, if it would come out on Shabbos, you would fast on Shabbos. Let me give you a few reasons why Al Pi Machshava, why it would be permitted to fast on Asar B'Teves if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos. This is what you mentioned earlier.
This is what Rabbi Elbam says.
So Rabbi Obam and many quote over from the Chassam Sofer in Parshas Vayikra, the Taras Moshe and Parshas Vayikra, in his drush for Zayin Adar, page Yud Aleph. Take a look at number 22. Take a look at number 22. Says the Chassam Sofer, there are two types of fast days. One type of fast day is Yom Shemeis By Ava Ve'imai. On the day, if a parent passes away, a yahrzeit, so many have a minhag to fast. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. What happens if a person has yahrzeit on Shabbos? Do you fast on Shabbos? No, you don't fast on Shabbos. But what if somebody has a bad dream? Bad dream. Right? You know the dream? When the robber is running after you, he's chasing you, wake up sweating, you know, what? No, I don't have any money on me. And you realize it's only a dream. Right? And it's really bothering you. You can't concentrate the whole, you're being haunted by the dream. So the halacha is what? You can fast. You're allowed to fast. A person fasts to be mevatel the effects of a dream. Are you allowed to fast on Shabbos for a bad dream? Yes. Why? Because it's considered oineg. It gives a person pleasure to fast on Shabbos, because the Gemara says, Yafet tainis l'chaloim ke'esh ben ha'oras. The same way if you put fire in flax, bam, right? It goes up in smoke immediately. If you fast for a bad dream, the effects of the bad dream dissipate immediately. Chassam Sofer wants to know, what's the difference? Why are you allowed to fast for a bad dream on Shabbos, and you can't fast for Yom Shemeis By Ava Ve'imai? What's the chiluk? What's the difference? Says Chassam Sofer, there's a very simple difference. To fast on the day that a parent passed away, you're fasting because you're sad because of a past event. You're not going to bring the parent back. There's nothing you could do to change the situation. It's just because you're in pain. You can't fast for past tragedy on Shabbos. But to fast to accomplish something for the future, where by fasting you're removing for the future the ill effects of the bad dream, that you're allowed to fast on Shabbos because it gives you simcha to accomplish something by fasting. Says the Chassam Sofer, Al Pi Kabbalah, in the Sefer HaKarnayim, and in the commentary Don Yadin. Recently got a hold of that Sefer Don Yadin. It's from Reb Shamshon Me'Ashapalya. He brings down the following idea. That we know the tragedy that we're fasting for is ultimately the Churban Beis HaMikdash that happened on Tisha B'Av. But when did that whole process, when did that process begin? The first stage of that process began on Asara B'Teves, when Nebuchadnezzar surrounded the walls of Yerushalayim. So the beginning of the process of Churban occurred on Asara B'Teves, when Nebuchadnezzar surrounds the walls of Yerushalayim. We have a principle called Dar Shalai Nivna Mikdash B'Yamav Ilu Nechra B'Yamav, that if the Beis HaMikdash is not being built for our generation, it's like we destroyed it. Which means every year on Tisha B'Av, Hashem unfortunately decides to destroy our Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash that we could have built, Hashem decides on Tisha B'Av to destroy. What day then does Hashem decide, together with the Bezdin Shalmala, whether this process is going to go through the motions again? In other words, that means every year Hashem convenes with the Bezdin Shalmala and says, should I allow Churban to occur again this year? Or should I not allow Churban to occur this year? What day does Hashem convene the Bezdin Shalmala and say, should we go through the process again, or should we not go through the process again? Every year on Asara B'Teves, Hashem convenes Bezdin Shalmala and says, you know what? Should we allow this process to occur again, or should we not allow the process? So that means, says Chassam Sofer, every year on Asara B'Teves, Hashem is convening Bezdin Shalmala and they're deciding, should we go through the same dark, bad road again, or should we come out of it finally? So every year on Tisha B'Av, what happens on Tisha B'Av has already been a foregone conclusion on Asar B'Teves. If Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you cannot fast because you're crying over spilled milk. You can't fast over spilled milk on Shabbos. but Asara B'Teves, Hashem is convening the Bezdin. Should He allow the process to go again? Or should He say, no, this year is going to be different? So Asara B'Teves, since that's the beginning of the process, since that is the determination whether this process will continue again, says the Chassam Sofer, it is permitted to fast on Shabbos if Asara B'Teves comes down on Shabbos. Why? Because you're not fasting over the past, you're fasting to accomplish something for the future. So just to end off with one more thing. What does this have to do with Parshas Vayechi? Right? What does that have to do with Parshas Vayechi? How many years did Yaakov Avinu live? 147. How many days are there between Tisha B'Av and Asara B'Teves?
How many days?
There are 147 days between Tisha B'Av and Asara B'Teves. 107, right? 21 weeks. 21 weeks. 147 days. You can count it. 147 days.
I'm going to count it.
What date of the calendar should we have gotten the report that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'Av? You know what date it should have happened? It should have happened on Asar B'Teves. But it happened 5 days earlier. You know why it would have been convenient to happen on Asar B'Teves? Because if it would have happened on Asar B'Teves, those 147 days, which corresponds to the years of Yaakov Avinu, we would have been protected from that sorrow. The years of Yaakov Avinu, says Chassam Sofer, would have protected us from that disaster of Tisha B'Av. Because if we would have heard the news on Asara B'Teves, on 147 days later, we would have been protected through the year of Yaakov Avinu. But you know why it didn't happen on that day? You know why it happened 5 days earlier? Because we did not deserve for Yaakov Avinu to protect us from that. Why didn't we deserve? Because the Navi Yirmiyah says we were Mechalo Shabbos. We didn't keep Shabbos. So since we didn't keep Shabbos, Hashem didn't want those 21 weeks of Shabbos to protect us. What's the significance of 147? There are 147 klalos in the Teichacha. 98 in Kisavai, 49 in Nitzavim. Right? 98 in Kisavai, 49 in Bechukaisai. The 147 klalos in the Torah, we would have been protected from through the lifetime of Yaakov Avinu. But because we were Mechalo Shabbos, Hashem did not allow the report to get to us 147 days later. It came 5 days earlier. And therefore we lost the Zechus of Yaakov because we were Mechalo Shabbos. So Rebbeinu Shalom says, you don't keep Shabbos? That is why, says the Chassam Sofer, if Asara B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, you still have to fast on Shabbos. Because since you didn't have the protection of Shabbos and you were Mechalo Shabbos, you don't have the protection of Yaakov Avinu, and that's another reason why if Asara B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, we would still fast on Shabbos. So we should be Zoicha, that Tzayim HaRavi, V'tzayim HaChamishi, V'tzayim HaShvi, V'tzayim HaSiri, Yiyu L'Beis Yehuda, L'Sasoin, U'L'Simcha, L'Mayadim, Toivim, V'Emes, HaShalom, Ehevu, Rabbi, have a wonderful.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.